Look at my 12 by 12 scrapbook paper collection. These were all my mum's. I just made all of these clusters directly into my cluster book. If you missed the video that I just made showing you how I make this all-in-one cluster book, I'll put the link below so you can go and check it out. I'm going to show you 50 cluster ideas that you can glue directly into this book and then tear them out when you're ready to use them. So I've made this extra storage folder so that as you're tearing out your clusters, and you might have a few loose ones, you can pop them into this extra storage folder. There's so many ways you can make your clusters. You can do your layers like this by tearing out just any random shapes, like your little squares, put your snippet roll over the top, or just keep building on layers and layers of paper like this. Add snippets of lace, fabric, flowers, whatever you've got. There's endless ways to make clusters. So this is one way. This first book that I made, I come up with as many ways as I could to use up what I had in my stash to make these clusters. Now this one here, I just use die cuts. These were die cuts that my mum had already cut out and had stored away in her stash. Then I just tore some ledger paper, a fussy cut lady, a little bit of paper tape, and a little bit of sari silk and lace on there. For this one, I've used a fussy cut leaf to be the base of my cluster. And I've just used a punch on the side of some cardstock here. This one's a fussy cut flower. This one's also a fussy cut flower. So I can pick up each of these petals, and then I just put a bit of stamped tea-dyed paper over the top there. This one here is a vellum tag. Again, they were in Mum's stash. I've been using these up for ages. So you can see the background paper through the tag, some more of the side punched paper lace, and I've just put Edith Holden paper over the top, some paper store-bought leaves there, there's some more store-bought leaves there, and some store-bought flowers. This one here, I've used a piece of my homemade washi tape, and that is a piece of fussy cut tape out of a book page, and some more Edith Holden, another store-bought flower. The leaf here is my mum's die cut, and again some more of this craft paper. Once you've used something and you've prepared it, just use it over and over and over again. Just keep putting the same thing on each of your clusters. I've used this all the way through a lot of my clusters. This is a tag that I've used for the background of my cluster. A fussy cut butterfly, more Edith Holden. Just a circle disc with some flowers on it. This one here is just some green, plain green cardstock that I tore out and crinkled up a piece of wrapping paper that was in a delivery and zigzag stitched it down the center, some tea dyed, another die cut for the background to make the front come out, and some more die cut leaves and some store-bought flowers. That's that one done. It's a quite large cluster, so I've alternated between large clusters, medium clusters, got smaller, and I've got right down to tiny clusters, here's one here, which I'll show you some more in a minute too. These ones are stapler clusters. So you just pick up all and any of your scraps that you've got on the side here, and you just don't even think about what you're picking up. Just pick up the first things you see in your pile, pop them together, and throw a staple right in the center. And then I've reused them and glued them onto the bases of my cluster book. So this one here, when I tear this out, I'll be able to use that on top of another cluster or just put it somewhere in one of my journals where it fills a small space. This one here again, just offcuts of paper. Stickers, that's a sticker. That's a fussy cut. This is a cluster that I made such a long time ago using fussy cut, torn papers, stickers. That is a print off a recycled envelope. This one here, I've used Australia Post packaging to get the frame here. I love these leftover packagings. I'll show you how I make these. If you're in Australia, you get these little booklets of stamps. So these are just your everyday mailing postage stamps. I use the stamps and then each sheet that is in this little fold over thing, you can tear off. You carefully tear away each sheet from the main sheet. Now I always like using the flower ones or the birds because it's got more of an interesting print around the border. This one was Australia Fauna with these little creatures, which is mostly white. So I would use the white on a dark background and I would use this dark background on this pink one, the pink and white background. So think about that. Now this frame, this background where the 4 stamps were, is a sticker. So you just find the corner and peel that off. So wherever you sit that, you can use it like that. You can't see all the frame on here because I've covered it. You would just lay it over the top. So you can use it not only in your clusters, but you can use it on top of an image. That's how I started using it, on top of an image like this. And then I thought, oh, you know what? I can use this now in my clusters. Let's get back to here. So those little frames make nice cluster backgrounds. Doesn't matter if you rip around the edge of it or through it, it's going to add interest. That is the little tattered butterflies. I've just done a faux stitch down the center of the butterfly and then just glued the body of the butterfly to that. So that's given me a little bit of dimension there. So it's not glued through the page. Now I've torn the other side of this page out so it's ready to fall out. Now these ones here are cards out of Your Creative Studio, which is a subscription box. So whatever you get, I just rip them in half and then put them back together and use that as my background. And I use the Kaisercraft doily sticker again behind here. Tore that one again, tore the corner off another one and put over there, and a little bit of lace glued off to the side here. There's another piece of the Your Creative Studio card here, and I glued a real stamp on here and some seam binding. Used the edge trim again here. This is a ticket that I received in some Happy Mail, and some more of the paper leaves and flowers, some more of this sticker trim, and this is just a fussy cut that my mum cut out. So I've combined it with some tea-dyed paper with the edge trim and a store-bought flower and some more of the torn postcard there. This time I've used some text from a book page and the torn postcard, and this one is again a piece of the torn postcard and the little heart from the same paper as this doily sticker. This page here, what I've done here is I've cut some strips of some text quote that I like. So I've just used some two-way glue and I've glued those down the edge here, just on one edge, and they're sitting free here. So all I need to do is just pull them off when I want to use them and glue them down into my book. And I've still got that piece of cardstock underneath to use for something else later on. Now these are the rolls of snippet. I didn't have to do much at all to these because snippet rolls, they're already very active. They're already got lots on them. So this is the snippet roll. I've added this fussy cut flower to the top. I've added the punched edge of that flower on the side. I've added this lace, and I added a little piece of the snippet roll up on the corner, and that finished that off perfectly. This one here, I didn't do anything other than put this little piece of fabric behind it on one side. That's all I did to that one. That is the snippet roll. Very easy, that one. I didn't do anything at all. This one, I put a piece of the fabric behind it and a piece of Edith Holden and punch the side of that page there. So that one was also a very easy one to make. This one is the snippet roll again. I did nothing to this one. I didn't add anything to it. It's just straight off the snippet roll, and I glued it onto my page. This one, I added this little bit of the snippet roll on top of a snippet roll. So this is a combined snippet roll. The snippet roll I made and the snippet roll that Deb made. Put the two together and that one looks great. This one, again, I combined the two. I've put my snippet roll and Deb's over the top, and then just glued a little bit of lace in the middle to combine them. This one here, again, is a small piece of the snippet roll with a little bit of the edge punched cardstock there. This one, I didn't do anything to it. I just glued it straight down. This one, I only stuck a little tiny bit of tape paper underneath the edge here. This one here, I've used the Your Creative Studio paper prints, and I've torn a piece for the back. I've fussy cut my vintage lady, and I've put some of the bridal type netting around her neck as if it's a shawl. And this is my DIY bridal netting. I've got a video. I'll attach that to the bottom in the description so you can see how I made that. It's perfect for little projects like this. And I've just put one of the stapler snippets on the bottom. And this one here, I've used a vintage, like a book of matches. I've just taken all the matches out, and I've fussy cut my vintage lady. I've just poked her out from the side. I've printed, using my home printer, an image on a piece of linen, and I've put that poking out at the side, and I tied a bit of seam binding, and I crinkled it first, and I tied that around the matchbook, just the front of the matchbook, and I've glued that down and turned that into my little cluster. This one here is a combination of the Your Creative Studio little cards and the vintage lady and some lace. This one here is the printed fabric and some vellum with some lace in the center. That was just a piece left over off a page I extended. The fussy cut lady and some store-bought flowers. Again, this is my vintage ladies. I've just cut them out. Placing things on an angle adds interest. I've got a sticker in the background here. Put little stickers here, there and everywhere just to change up the background. You would think that is a piece or a part of the paper, but it's not. It is a sticker. So then I've got the postcard torn in half again there. That's another little sticker with some gold on it there. And the butterfly sticker over the top brings it all together. On the green background, I've used the ticket from my Happy Mail again, a sticker of a young girl, And this is my mason jar printable. That's available on my website if you want to print out some mason jars and use these. There's this size and this size. You just print out the mason jars and you can use these to build on your clusters as well. This one's a sticker. This is a DIY stamp. And these are stickers out of your creative studio. This is a DIY stamp. This little bit poking out here is a playing card. All I did was, I picked this one. I just got my playing card and just tore it. I just tore it into a couple of pieces so that a little bit of it was poking out here, and I used the other side of it here. And I've still got some parts of the back that I can use somewhere else. So I loved using the playing card. That worked really nice here, just to separate a bit of the background and this here. So that's another cluster style stamp that I made and used a sticker in here too. This one here is just some stickers and some stickers in the background. As I said, the playing card, and that's a bit of music sheet and another DIY stamp that I made. I've got a video on how I make these stamps as well. I'll link that below too. And this one here, I've used a combination of the snippet roll, the postcard, the mason jar, and some DIY stamps. Even this little floral arrangement is in with the mason jars. This one here I've already torn out of the page, and I've done this so I could show you how the little storage folder works. So you can either leave your edges straight, or you could come back and just tear them a little bit. And tear them, you've just got to take as least as possible off the edges. Now this is my last page, and what I've done here are these are little tickets. These are also little tickets that were in my mum's stash. Just like little ephemera tickets. I'm not sure if she purchased them or if she printed them out, but they're in all different colours. So I just got the pink one. So I did distressing the edge a little bit. I fussy cut a flower. Sometimes when you fussy cut things out of a book, they don't have the entire image, and they're perfect to put onto things like this when you want to make your cluster and you need to use something up that's got an edge on it like that. Use it to form part of your design. So I just matched it up to the edge of my ticket and glued a group of 3 flowers over the top. So when I tear that out, that is going to look really nice. This one here is the postage cards. Again, I just glued that one down. That's a fussy cut floral that I've put over the top. And this is another fussy cut label that I've just glued straight over the top. This sheet here was really simple to put together. This one here is an envelope fussy cut off a sheet. This is a postcard, and I've just stuck a flower on the top. So simple. Again, this is just another cluster that I had in my stash that I'd made previously. This is a stamp that I'd made previously, and I just glued them all together and then glued 3 stamps on top. Oh, there's another little piece of some of the card that I tore up from your creative studio. And these ones here are so simple. I thought I'll just utilize the image on the background here, these little leaves. I love these pink and brown together on the neutral background. So I had some plain tea-dyed paper discs cut out just using my circle punch. So I just glued that on there and put the pink flower with the pearl center. So simple, but when I tear that out, whether I tear it in the shape of a square or a circle, that is going to look so cute somewhere in one of my journals. Same with this one, just the tiniest snippet of Edith Holden page was left over, so I glued that down and threw a flower on the edge. With this one, there's some tiny flowers just glued underneath, and they're just poking out the edge here just to give that a little background. This one here, I just put a pink heart behind it and then glued the flower over the top. This one, I just put a little embroidered flower underneath that, just so that there's a little bit of green popping out from the pink flower. And I just put some of this leaf trim and glued that down underneath. So I can either tear this around the whole thing, or I can tear part of it and I can make 2 clusters out of that if I really wanted to. And this one here is just a fussy cut sticker and a fussy cut postcard and envelope with another sticker. And this one I haven't committed to yet. I've just put that there. That brings me to say, you don't always have to glue your entire cluster down. I glue mine down in the middle and then I leave the edges free. You can see here that this is not all glued down all the way to the edge. If I put my tool under here, you'll see that the edges are free. And that is so that if I come along later on, like say tomorrow I get up and I go, oh, I found the perfect thing that I can just stick under there and glue down. That's going to look great. Or I can tear this out and go and put it in my journal, and because I've left the edge free, I can then glue something that matches my journal under here because I've left the edge just that little bit free. But if I don't add anything to it, once I glue this into my journal, I can come in and put a little bit of glue under here if it needs it. That has been a marathon flip through of every single cluster that I made. You can use whatever you've got in your stash to make your clusters. So the main thing is that you enjoy yourself. If you're going to make a cluster book, don't forget to use the hashtag clusterbook. And I've also linked the video below on how you can make the cluster book. Ciao for now.